Okay, this is it. This is episode 50, my 10th episode. This is going to be tough for some people to take. And, I say these things very seriously. This isn't about clickbaits. Like I said, I would make cat videos if I was worried about clickbaits. This information is just for those people that need it. But I'm going to shake you to your core today when I discuss what and show a picture of what I believe the destroyer will look like. We are told to strip away church doctrine that's not based on Scripture. Jeremiah prophesies that the Gentiles will come from around the world and confess that they inherited lies, vanities, things with no profit. You think showing up for church each week and punching a time clock's going to do it? No, there's a lot more work than that.
God sent him to me.
I guess that could be true, but take your seat next to me in the pews. This is season 2. Let's go. I never talked about this before. If you read my book, this is chapter 25, which was the last chapter. And I'm going to make this as my 10th episode. I've never spoke these words out loud. I've only written them in the book. But it's a serious subject, and I want to take this as serious as I can. And before I show the picture of what I think, which you can find on your computer very easily, I'm going to go through some history a little bit. My videos have been working up to this point. I've been talking about Daniel and chapter 9 of Daniel, where the end times at 3.5 years left, the destroyer will be revealed. And people are going to be taken in by him. They're going to believe he's God. There's going to be a lot of Christians that believe he's God. At the end times, Christians are going to turn on one another, turn on the churches, turn on each other. And it's going to be for a reason, and you'll understand it further. Please stick with me in this video. You'll understand it further why I say these things, and I take this very serious when I say it. I want to read from 2 Thessalonians, and I'm going to start in chapter 2 in verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember ye not that, when I was yet with you, I told you these things? And now ye know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in this time. For the mystery of iniquity doeth already work. Only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the work of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. I just want to give a little history on Thessalonica. If we remember from the book of Acts, Paul was only in Thessalonica for 3 Sabbaths. He taught for 3 Sabbaths. And you notice in his letter that he sends to them, he was talking to them about the end times, what's going to happen, about the deception, about the destroyer. Let me ask you this, how many years have you been going to church? How often do they tell you about the end times and the destroyer and the deception and all these things that are heading our way? They are not telling us. One reason, this is the first reason why people are going to turn on the church when they are deceived. Okay, I think we're ready to see the picture. But stay with me afterwards, and I'm going to explain to you how I came to this and why it makes sense. At least it does to me. But here's the picture. Take a look at this. The first question I want to ask you is, how do you know this is a picture of Jesus? How do we know? We are told this is a picture of Jesus. People who don't follow Jesus know it's Jesus. What would happen if somebody who was the destroyer, now everybody's going to follow, what if it was somebody that looked like what we think Jesus was going to look like and sat on a throne and claimed to be God? Everybody would believe it, except the strong Christians, the truly strong faithful, but everybody would believe it. Everybody would be deceived by it. Now, I'm going to give you the reasons why I think that it's not possible that this is what Jesus looked like. If you remember from the tellings, Jesus could change, and he could change the way he looked because he could disappear into a crowd. He was in front of the Pharisees would be after him, and he would disappear into a crowd. Now, I want to read Mark 13:6, which is an exact duplicate of Matthew 24:5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. There you go. Yeshua said it himself. He's basically telling you, it's not me. You're going to be deceived. This is going to be a tough thing for people to handle. And two gospels recorded it verbatim, Matthew and Mark. So Jesus wanted us to know that. I want to talk about the Bible itself and the descriptions we get of Jesus from the Bible. Now, I want to get into 1 Corinthians 11:14. Doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? Now, this is Paul's writing. Paul called a man with long hair a shame. Do you think Jesus had long hair? Well, let me put it this way. Do you think any of his disciples drew pictures of him? Is that how it worked? No. The Jews were told not to draw pictures, no images, no graven images. And I want to move right into Mark 9. And this is going to be our first description of the Messiah. And like I said, the Messiah is actually described 3 times in the Bible. And I'm going to read the first time. It occurs, actually, this is the second time. I'm going to start with Mark. And his raiment became shining, exceedingly white as snow, so as no fuller on earth can white them. So that's a description of him. Let's next see how Matthew describes Yeshua. And was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was as white as the light. Does any of these descriptions sound like what I showed a picture of? Now, continuing on, Revelation. We're going to go to Revelation 1, picking it up in 13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hair were white as wool, and as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto the fine brass, and as if they were burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Does that description look like the picture? I can't say what the destroyer is going to look like for certain, because anything can happen, but I'm trying to put together the pieces of what most likely will happen. I just described what the Bible said Yeshua, or as we call him Jesus, would look like. We just got some good imagery from the Bible of what Yeshua looked like to them. And now I want to move into the next section where I'm going to talk about being forbidden to make images. So why now are we forbidden to make idols or images? I'm just going to read Exodus 20, verse 4. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. So let me ask you this. Some people recognize that as the second commandment. And in some people's commandments, 10 commandments, this doesn't exist. To understand that, look at my video on which 10 commandments. There's 2 sets of 10 commandments that are used by one by 50% of the people, one by the other 50% of the people. But if this is not your second commandment, it's still a commandment of God that we are not to make any kind of an image. And if you look at this pattern repeated throughout the entire Bible, they don't want human hands making something that will be worshiped. Even like if I painted a picture of Jesus and I put it on my wall, what I thought Jesus looks like, and I stood in front of it and I kissed it and I prayed to it, I am bowing to an idol. Jesus is not on my wall. He's everywhere. He's omnipresent. So I should not be praying to idols, even though it may sound like it's a good thing. Even a cross. I don't think you should be praying to a cross. You should be praying directly, and this is my opinion, directly to Jesus. You call on Jesus. You call on his name, not looking at idols, not holding anything. And this is the exact same reason. If you look throughout the whole world, my big theme is leaven. If it's my second video, that explains everything. They don't want the leaven of man touching anything either. That's why when the Jews made temples, they were unhewn stone, just plain stones. They built them, not cut by man, not interfered with by man. Because if a man cuts a stone, he might want to scribe something in it, give it his own little personal touch. Not supposed to do that. And I think I pretty much got the point across on this, that we are not to have pictures of Jesus. It's the only thing I can say. You know, you look at this picture and you swear, you convince yourself, and you were told by your parents and their grandparents all the way back. Nobody knows where these things started. If you looked at other of my videos, I mentioned about 3 wise men seeing the baby Jesus. There were no wise men that saw the baby Jesus. It says in scriptures they saw him as a young child. He was over a year old. But yet you look at the nativity sets, people have them in their yards. Churches have them that show kings standing there looking at him. We are being deceived. I just want you to know that we're being deceived. You know, I want to thank you for paying attention. And if you made it to the end of the video, you know, God bless you. What I'm saying is keep extra oil for your lamp. Be vigilant. Watch for the coming of Jesus. We know he's coming back. Watch for him. When he comes back, it's going to be a streak across the sky. He's not just going to appear out of nowhere. So have a good night. Here's my book if you want to pick it up. Thank you for paying attention. Please, not in front of my face. It's a good read. It has the basics that Christians seem to need to know and don't seem to know. Pick it up on Amazon. Thank you.